Good evening, Rabbi. We're going to discuss more about PIRKEH Avot. We're getting close to the Shavuot holiday now, which is going to be Saturday night. The all-nighter over here is going to be Saturday night. And we're going to be here from 12 o'clock until 4:30 in the morning, which is going to start prayers. And then we're going to be praying. We should be finished with everything, all the prayers, everything, about 7 o'clock. Then we have a Chachapuri with Shalva. In the morning, it's going to be all ready. So that's our playing. Yeah, come whenever you can, Yeah. Whenever you can make it. Don't come after 7. You're not going to find us.
7 in the morning?
Yeah, 7 in the morning. You're not going to find us over here.
Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Sunday, yeah. Come Saturday night after, the wee hours, come, whenever you want to come, Whenever you get a chance. You're going to enjoy it. I think you're going to like it.
Yeah.
So, last year we had fun. So,
I only disrupted you guys.
No, it was fine. There was no disruption.
It's been a year, my God.
Yeah, okay, it flies. Time flies when you're having fun. Okay, so as we said, right, that we're getting ready for Shavuot, so therefore we're going to continue with PIRKEH Avot. At least try to finish the second parak maybe tonight, before Shavuot. So we have here Rabbi Shimon, right, which is Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, the great Kabbalist. He tells us over here, be careful with two things, right, Kriyat Shema and Tefillah. So be careful with prayers. So what does that mean? A person has to pray, a man has to pray 3 times a day, according to Jewish law. So you got to be careful with that. Don't skip prayers and don't just say, oh, yeah, well, next time, tomorrow. You can't do like that, right? The prayers are an obligation. So we got to make sure you pray 3 times a day as a man. A woman is something else, right? They can pray 1 time a day. That's good enough. Some do 2 times a day, some 1. Some do even 3, but that's very stringency more. So, but what's the essence of what he's saying over here? Right? So, when you pray, right, don't make it like a habituation. That's the thing, right? Just blurting it out. Just what I did yesterday, that's what I'm doing today. What I'm just going to be doing same thing tomorrow. That doesn't make it into the prayer. The prayer needs your heart. You got to put your heart into it. So if you want to put your heart into it, you have to have kavanah. You have to have intention. You have to have concentration. That's the thing. So this is the reason why the Chazal tell us that be careful with prayers. Rabbi Shimon tells you, what does that mean? That make it like a real supplication. Make it like, with your heart, with your feelings. Pray to God with your feelings. Don't just make it mechanical, just blurting out things with your mouth. And this is a very, very important thing. You know why? Because people get stuck into this rut. Even the religious people, people who are ultra-religious, ultra-orthodox, whatever you want to call them, right? Haredi. Right? These people also get into these problems. You know what it is? That becomes a habituation, the prayer. So just come in every day, go in, go out with tefillin, talit, but you don't feel nothing, That's not a good thing. A person should feel something with his prayers. They should have the heart should be there. It's very important. So, that's why the Chazal said, right, the sages, they said, Eze avodah shebelev b'tfilah. What is the service of God which is in the heart? Prayers. Why is that? Because prayers has to be with your heart. That's the whole thing. Okay, very good. Goes on to say, the MISHNA here, another important thing, huh? Also, he adds regarding the prayers, by the way, which is that, a person should never give up praying. What does that mean? That, even though his situation may be rough in life, he may have difficulties in life, nevertheless, don't give up and say, oh, well, things won't get better, it's going to be always bad. Pray so that your situation should improve. You know what I mean? Hashem wants to hear your prayers. He wants to hear you supplicating. He wants to hear you asking and begging for the things that you need in life. Refuah shlema, healing, or parnasah, whatever it is that you need, right? You got to pray for that. That's the thing. Right? That's what he's telling you over here. So what does that mean? He tells you, right, that Hashem is very merciful. So he can have mercy on you and change the decree that you had before. Something which was bothering you by prayers, by doing prayers. So prayers is a very important thing. Another thing he says over here, right? Al tahi rasha b'fnei atzmecha. What does that mean? Don't be wicked in your eyes, in your own eyes. So says the Rambam, he explains over here, right, that don't think of yourself that you're wicked, like that you're a sinner. You shouldn't think that. That's not you shouldn't have that opinion of yourself. Why is that, by the way? Because you know what it is? Says the Rambam, it can make you even get worse like that. when you have, you know what it is? When you think yourself that you're a sinner, you're wicked, that lowers your self-esteem. You know, that's what happens. You know, so you become like insecure. You know what I mean? So if you become insecure, what happens is that you say, well, you know, I'm a sinner anyway, so I'll just do whatever I want. You know, nothing is going to help me. I'm helpless. You know what I mean? There are people who get to this kind of thing. It's like a depression kind of thing also. So we call that depression, you know? So don't be wicked in your own eyes, you know? Don't get depressed. Don't get like down, you know, on yourself. Are you down on yourself? You know, it's like, oh, I'm so bad. Nothing will help me. I give up hope. Don't give up hope. You know, always you have to get up every day, you know, and hope for the best. This is the thing, right? Okay, very good. So that's an important thing to understand. Let's go to the next Mishnah, right? So Rabbi Elazar, this is Mishnah Yud Daled, but we just did Yud Gimel. Heveh shakud ilmod Torah v'da ma shetashiv la'apikoros. So it tells you Rabbi Elazar. By the way, who's Rabbi Elazar? He's the son of Rabbi Shimon, right? We just now got from Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, who was a great Kabbalist, and his son Rabbi Elazar. Those were the two that stayed in the cave, you know, for 12 years, and then they went back again, right, for the second round, as we said. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that we're talking about. So Rabbi Elazar, his son, comes and says that be diligent with Torah study. What does that mean? Make sure, you know, that you have a schedule for Torah study. You know, don't make it like something, oh yeah, once in a while I'll drop in, you know, maybe, you know. Yeah, I'll see how my friends are, you know, I'll drop in there. What do you mean drop in? You have to make it regular schedule for Torah study. You know what I mean? That's what the reason why you were created. So be diligent with Torah study. Be regular with that. That's one thing, right? Be somebody who's, you know, consistent with that. Very important. But not only that, right, for its own sake, but also he says, right, that what happens is that once you are diligent with your Torah study, and so you become a real scholar, eventually, you know, you become like a real chacham. So what happens is that v'dash ma shetashiv la'apikoros, you're going to know how to answer to a heretic. What does that mean? Some heretic is going to come to you, right? Speaking his heresy, you know, all kinds of nonsense, you know. He came back to life, you know, this, that, right? All kinds of stuff, you know. He's going to give you verses from the Bible, you know, as if like they prove that, you know. But if you know those verses, you know that all the stuff that he's saying is a lie. You know what I mean? All fabrications and, you know, all distortions of the Bible. You know what I mean? That's what they do. That's what they do. They're sick people, you know. They distort the Bible. They fabricate all kinds of things which are not there. You know what I mean? So if you learn, if you're diligent with your studies, you know how to answer these foolish people, you know? So to get them away from you. You know, it's like, you know, these people, these missionaries, you know what they're like, right? They're like a pesky fly, you know? It comes on you, know, like it sticks on your ear, you know? Sticks on you. They just won't let go, you know? They're pesky, you know? Like keep on sticking on you, you know? Stick over here, stick over here, stick over here. Like, so just, you want to get them away from you, you know? Get off my ear, you know? Get off my nose. Like, what is this, you know? Like, why are you sticking to me? You know, like, so you know how you do that, right? By having the answer, the proper answer to get them away from you, you know? Once they see that you're learned, they'll leave you alone. Because they know they can't tell you their stupid lies. You know what I mean? They know that their lies are not going to work. And they know they're sick, you know? Like, so they know they want to distort everything. That's what they were, you know? They want to brainwash you.
You're talking about the Mormons in the subways?
I don't go to the subways, to be honest with you. I don't know what's going on over there.
No, a couple of guys.
But I'm talking about, you know,
approached.
in general, you know what I mean? All these people, with these psychopaths, you know, who are going around. Also on the internet, by the way, they're very active. You know what I mean? You don't have to go to the subway. On the internet, you're going to get this, you know, you're going to get bombarded with this nonsense, you know? So the only way to get them away from you is to know what to answer them, you know? Then they know, oh, he knows something. Forget it, he's not going to believe me, you know? He knows the truth. So he won't do the psychopath philosophies, you're not going to get by with them. So that's the thing, you know, when a person is knowledgeable in Torah, he knows what to answer the heretic. This is the thing, you know. I'll tell you something interesting, you know, once when we were, just give you an example, you know, my personal experience. If you remember, there was the old Bukharian shul, you know, in 71st, before they built the new building, you know, the fancy one. So the old building was like not so fancy, you know, it was like a little you know, like, it was a garage that was turned into a synagogue. Basically, that's what it was, you know, some Mazda dealer or whatever, you know, whatever. If you remember. So what happened was that that place one time we were praying there, I used to go there to pray regularly, because they had like a 8 o'clock minyan, which was, at that time, it was, it was practical for me, it worked out well. So I used to go there, and so one time, there walks in some missionary guy, one of these pesky flies, comes in, and starts, so he's got a Bible in his hand, and starts like learning out all kinds of verses, what about you, sir? He just comes in and starts like yelling, like in the hallway. So like, everybody's like looking at this guy like, yo, what's with you? Like, where'd you come from? Where'd you fly in from? Like, which window did you come in from? Pesky fly, So, what I did was, I was a little bit learned in Bible, So I went right away, I went over there, and I asked him, what's your claim? What are you trying to say? So everything he said, I answered him, right away. So once he saw that I knew something, he walked out and he left. Because he realized that nonsense is not going to work.
What do you think their mission is?
To bring people to hell. That's what. That's their mission.
Not intentional.
That's what they're doing, though. To make them into idolaters, basically. That's what that is.
But they believe in what they're doing.
I don't know. God knows. I don't know. I don't even know if that's true.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I don't know, but they're so sick. They're so ill. These people. You wonder why these people. They're always getting sick. These people. Always have diseases, all kinds of stuff. They eat pork. And all kinds of stuff, and they preach heresy. The pork brings the heresy out. When you eat pork, it makes you heretical. That's what it says. The sages say. It's one package deal. So whatever it is, right? That so that's the whole thing, right? That's what I'm telling you. Also another thing he tells you, right? Know who you're working for. In other words, when you're studying Torah and you're serving God, you should know who your boss is. God is your boss, not some mankind, flesh and blood. Hashem is your boss. So why is that important to know? Because you should know, right, that boss is faithful. What does that mean? He'll pay you your reward for all the the activity that you do. Studying Torah and right, knowing how to answer these heretics. If you have to get on that level, you study Torah, Hashem is going to reward you for all these things. So you got to make sure, right, that you know your stuff. That's the whole thing, right? Because your boss is not going to, renege on your salary, right? And say, I'm sorry, come back next week, I'll pay you next week. Doesn't work like that, right? Hashem will pay you for everything that you did. Okay. Okay, very good. Let's go to Mishnah Tetvav, 15. So this is something interesting, right? It's like an allegory over here. So he says, the day is short, right? It's an allegory. And the labor is great. In other words, you have a short day. You have to do a certain amount of labor. You have a job, right? Like those dental labs. Yeah. So you have a short day, a lot of labor to do. A lot of fillings, a lot of caps, whatever. Crowns, whatever you call those things, right? Crowns. So you have a lot of work to do. The day is short. Po'alim atzalim. So what does that mean? The workers are lazy. Mm-hmm. In other words, they're not working so well. The productivity is not so great. Yeah. They're talking about politics, about cars, about all kinds of things, right? Instead of, who's better, the right wing, the left wings, Democrats, this, right? Republicans. So, but it's a great deal of reward over there. What does that mean? If you do your job, there's a great deal of reward, though. You can make a lot of money, Retire early, have your own. You can make, right? No problem. So that's another thing, right? That those dentists, they want their work, on time. That's what they're saying, right? Your customer, the ones that ask you for the job, they're telling you, okay, did you make my crown? Where is it? Like, I'm waiting, like my patient is waiting over here. I got to put the crown in, So all the situation that you would describe, right? What does it have to do with Torah? Right? This is more like a labor stuff, like labor discussion. What are we talking about here, right? So it's an allegory. So it says Rabbi Obadia Mibar Tanura, what is it really talking about here, right? That when it says that the day is short, right? There's not a lot of time. It's talking about this world, Olam Hazeh, which is short. You only live here about 120 years, whatever, right? 100 years, 80 years, depending on how healthy you were, how much you smoked, right? How much you, right? All kinds of stuff, right? So how much you exercised, whatever it was, right, that you did. So you have a set amount of time, right? Depending on your deeds more, right? So you have a set amount of time. It's short. It's a short life. This world is short. Only 6,000 years. That's the allegory of the short day. That this lifetime is short. So what does that mean? You got to make use of it. Don't waste your time. Being unproductive. Every moment should be utilized. For productivity. So what is the productivity? To do Torah, right? To do Torah and mitzvot. That's what you're getting rewarded for, right? That's what the dentist is paying you for. You know what I mean? For those crowns, right? These are the crowns. That's what you're getting paid for. So melacha meruba, right? What does that mean? That there's a lot of work, though. There's a lot of big workload. There's a lot of workload there going on. So what is that? What is the allegory talking about? The mashal? It's talking about that the Torah is very long. It's vast amount of material. So you have a lot of material to learn in the Torah. You know what I mean? So you got to make use of your time. Don't waste your time with other things. Mm-hmm. Make sure you master the Torah as much as you can. Because it's a vast amount of material. Very hard to master it.
How much have you mastered?
I don't know, maybe 0.0001% or whatever, right? Whatever, man. You never master it, really, the truth is. You know what I mean? Like, there's always so much more to learn. You know what I mean? As they say, the wise people, the more you know that how much little you know.
But you know
what I mean? You understand? In other words, the more you know, the more time you spend in learning, you realize how much you're lacking. So you're going backwards in a sense,
But you know the 5 books of Moses inside out.
Well, we try our best. What can we do? Right?
I'm just asking.
We try our best. So, that's the idea. So what does that mean? That is as you were asking for their workload, right? Give me my crowns.
Yeah,
so what is that talking about? So that's the allegory is like this. Hashem is telling you, right? It says in the pasuk, in the verse, "V'hagita bo yomam v'layla." Right? It says in the verse, you should dwell in the Torah, study Torah. You day and night, day and night you're supposed to be studying Torah. So what does that mean? He's pushing you. Listen, come on, I gotta get my crown ready. You have to work day and night for that. Hashem is pushing you. Listen, my Torah is very big. Are you applying yourself to learn the whole Torah? That's the thing. That's the question. So the workload is a great workload, and that's the boss is pushing you. Like, hey, I want my work ready. I got a patience to put their crowns in. That's the idea. So this is the situation that we're in. In this lifespan. That's what he's trying to tell you, right? Okay, very good. So now we're going to the next Mishnah, which is 16, Tetzain. So another thing Rabbi Elazar tells you, right? The Shon Rabbi Shimon tells you that the whole point is not to finish the job. That's not what Hashem wants from you. In other words, Hashem doesn't expect you to learn the whole Torah, which is too vast. We're not talking about the Bible only, right? We're talking about the oral Torah, which is so vast. There's no end to it. You know what I mean? The Bible, okay, people can learn the Bible. What's the big deal? It's only 24 books. It's not the end of the world, right? But we're talking about the Talmud and the Midrashim, and the Zohar and the Kabbalah and the Halacha and this and all that. It's a lot of material. Agadah, right? All kinds of things. So you got a lot of material to learn. So what happens is, right, but Hashem is not telling you got to learn the whole thing. That's not the job that you have. It doesn't say in your contract, you must finish the whole Torah. It does not say that. That's not what he expects from you. So what does he expect from you? Not that you should finish. Just you should be diligent, keep learning. In other words, don't stop. Be industrious, keep going. Don't stop and say, well, since I can't finish all of it, so I just won't, I won't even do it, because I have no chance. The fool says this, The fool says, right? I'll never finish it, it's too big, I'll never get a chance to do it, so I'll just leave it alone. So that's what the Chazal say, right? The Midrash, they say, what does the wise man say? What does the fool say, right? The wise man says, you know what? since the Torah is so big, I'll learn every day a little bit, and eventually I'll get somewhere, Eventually, I'll be something, I'll be somebody, That's what the wise man says. The fool says, oh, it's so big, I have no chance, so I'll just leave it alone. That's the fool. So what does that mean? The fool, in the end, he doesn't know nothing. Why? Because he never tried, He never really applied himself to that. So he's a fool. But the wise man said, listen, I'll do a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow. Eventually you get, it adds up. Every day you're studying for many, many years, right? So you start to get a lot of wisdom. So, by the way, there's also another thing, which you should know. That says the Meiri regarding this, on this commentary in the Talmud. He says that Torah study is not like any other discipline. When it comes to other studies, go to university, right? You have all kinds of disciplines that you can study. Philosophy, and this, and mathematics, science, physics, medicine, whatever. All kinds of things, right? Whatever, right? Business, right? Marketing, there's no end to it, right? Management, whatever, all kinds of things. So you can study all kinds of things over there in university, but the Torah study is not like that. There's a fundamental difference between this and that. There's many differences, but one of the differences is in the areas like this, right? That basically when you learn a discipline, you're only going to get what you, naturally could acquire, according to your brain power. And that'll be the end game, right? That's the end of the game. You're going to acquire a certain amount of knowledge according to your ability, and that's what you have. When it comes to Torah, it's not like that. What does that mean? A person can start learning very slowly, like a very gradual pace. But what happens is that once he picks up, the learning and gets very strong, he starts to grow like an exponential pace, very fast he starts to grow. He's shooting up in a rapid pace, which is above nature. So when it comes to Torah, a person can reach a stage where he's shooting up, knowledge above the natural law. How is that? How does that work? So they say like this, like this, right? That person who applies himself to study Torah, very diligently, Hashem sends him a special neshama, an extra neshama, to help him to learn, at a vast pace, very, very quickly, So this is what happens to a person who applies himself to study, in a diligent manner, for a long-term period. What happens is that eventually Hashem gives them a miraculous power to acquire the Torah in a very exponential manner, which is not natural anymore. That's the whole thing with the Torah. So Torah is not like any other discipline. Okay, so another thing it tells you, right, like this: if you learned a lot of Torah, they give you a lot of reward. That's what it is, right? You get a reward for learning Torah. So the more you learn, the more they reward you. It's like right? Leavdil. You have as you told me, right? You have a credit card, and they give you cash back. When you spend, right? They're credit cards. So the same thing with the Torah. You know what I'm saying? The more you learn, you get more cash back. You get more. And so therefore, right? What happens is that you get more reward. The more you spend, the more reward you get. Same thing with the Torah. The more you learn, the more reward you get as well. Okay, very good. So it says also, you should know, right, as we already mentioned, that your boss, God, who told you to learn Torah, he'll be faithful to pay you for everything. You know what I mean? He'll give you your reward in this world and the next world as well. So therefore, right, be careful, and make sure that you know who you're working for. What does that mean? Your boss is faithful. Your boss keeps his word. You know what I mean? Whatever he says, he does. If he told you he's going to reward you, he's going to reward you. That's the thing, Very good. Let's go on a little bit. Okay, that's the end of the second parak. I guess we'll do one more Mishnah, right, and we'll stop. So we're going to the third parak now, right, which is the Mishnah Aleph, the first Mishnah and the third parak. It says over here, Akavia ben Machalalel Omer, Istakel be'shlosha dvarim ve'ata ba'a lidei avera. So he says, look at three things and you won't come to sin. I wish he told this to the girl that we talked about. She needs this one. That lady, right? That shady lady. Okay, we won't mention any names. It's what do you call it? What should you look at, and you won't come to sin? Look at three things, right? Which is that me'ayin bata, where'd you come from? What's your history, right? What's your background? Where do you come from? Where do we come from? From Georgia. We're not talking about that. Right? Where do you come from? Number one, ulana ta'olech, and where are you going? What's the end game for you? where's your destiny going? You know? Life is a journey, not a destination. Right? Where is your destiny taking you? That's number 2. Also, who are you going to be judged for all these things, right? Who's going to judge you in the end for all these things? Do you know who's going to judge you? That's the question, right? So if you remember these 3 things, so what does that mean? Where do you come from, right? The question is, where do you come from, you know? What, 108? You grew up in 108? Well, where do you come from? That's not what we're talking about, right? We're not talking about where you grew up. So, what does that mean? You come from a drop of sperm, basically, right? That's where you come from, you know? So, like, what do you think you are, you know? Like, you came from a slimy drop of sperm. Like, what do you know, you're nothing, you're nobody. You know what I mean? Like, what do you have these, like, you know, fantasies in your head about what you are, you know? Believing that, you know? What do you think you are?
We're nobody, and yet there's so much expected from us.
That's the thing, you know? So, you come from a drop of sperm. What do you think you are? Who do you think you are?
Believe me, man.
You know? Right? And where are you going? You're going to be buried in the ground, and the worms are going to eat you there. This is your end. So you come from, you know, excuse my Russian language, right? You know? You come from sperm, drop of sperm. You're going to the ground to be eaten by worms. This is your end. You know what I mean? So what do you think you are? Like what you know? Where is your ego taking you? You know, your fantasies, you know, your delusions. Why are you so delusional about yourself? You think you're so great. You think you're so powerful. Whatever it is, right? So prominent. If you remember those 2 things, where you're going to be in the end, right? You're going to be there. You know, over there, right? Main Street, right? Hopefully you'll be in a better place than Main Street, right? Hopefully you'll be buried in Eretz Israel, God forbid. God willing, right? After your 120th good year. But nevertheless, right, you're going to be in the ground. With the worms. That's where you're going. And who are you going to give din in front of, right? The King of Kings, they're going to give din, judgment, right, to him. What does that mean? He's going to judge everything you did. You know, everything you did. It was good, it was bad, it was not so good, not so bad. Everything is going to be judged. Everything you did. They have the video, right, of everything. They have the tapes. They have the tapes of everything. Everything is all taped. Everything is all documented. Nothing you can get away. Today, you know, they have cameras everywhere. You know, they see you everywhere what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, so you can imagine if in Hashemayim what they have, right? What kind of cameras they have up there. They see everything you do.
Isn't that infringement on our rights?
What can we do? This is the world we live in today, you know? You can't hide nothing today. Right? Everything you do is being filmed by somebody. Or being recorded by somebody. All the more so upstairs, right? In Shamayim, in heaven. That they're filming you over there. They're recording you there.
Yeah.
If they have the power, the human beings to do that, all the more so in heaven they have the power to do that. Okay, so that's the trajectory that you have, right? That's where you come from, that's where you're going, and that's what you're going to be judged by. By the way, I want to end by telling you, right, that they say that the Gaon of Vilna, was one of the great rabbis of the last 300 years, one of the great Chachamim. There was something interesting, that his mother passed away, So I heard something like the story like this, that in the end, right, what happened was that his mother came in a dream to him,
Yes.
after she passed away. And she wanted to tell him something, some information, So the Gaon of Vilna was a very big Chacham, He was very wise. Very big into all the mystical stuff also, Kabbalah, everything, right? So he, when she told him one thing, she said, he says, I remember you told me like how the judgment is so strict when people get to the heaven, how strictly they're judged about everything that they did, So, but he says, I want to tell you something. He says, whatever you told me, how strict it was, he says, now that I see what it is, he says, it's much more strict than you told me. You don't even know how strict it is. You can't even imagine, right? So what does that mean? We as human beings don't even have the ability to fathom what the judgment is like, how strict it is. So what does that mean? The person has to know, right? Who are you being judged by? You're being judged by the ultimate being, right? The ultimate God, omnipotent, omnipresent, everywhere. He knows everything. He understands everything. What are you going to get away with? Are you going to get away with something? I mean, everything is going to be documented. Everything is going to be judged. Everything is going to be, So once you remember those three things, where you came from, where you're going, and who's going to judge you, if you still have something in your heart left, to be arrogant or to be conceited, oh boy, are you in trouble, right? That's the thing, right? Once you remember all those three things, that should humble you.
Yeah.
That's what he's trying to tell you. Okay, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us a good holiday with Hashem, Hag Shavuot.
Amen, amen.
We should be zochet to receive the Torah. They say, by the way, that if you study Torah that night, all night, that's why we study all night.
Yeah.
If you study the Torah all night, then nothing bad will harm you that year, the whole year.
You're kidding.
It protects you, right? The Torah study of that night, and you get blessed with a lot of blessings, and you get some great credits and crowns on your neshama, on your head, all kinds of good things.
So
a person should
you're going
be.
to make me come there from fear now? Is that allowed to come there just from fear?
No, for Chachapuri. I'm telling you for Chachapuri. So.
No, but is it allowed
Yeah.
to do that night? Even if you don't want to, you're
That's the whole
reluctant.
thing, yeah. That's the whole thing, of course, yeah.
It's allowed.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So that's the way it is. So Hashem should help us to be there and to learn Torah. So we should be zochet to learn Torah all year.
Yeah.
Hashem, very strong, very powerful.
Amen,
And we're
amen.
guarded. That means we're guarded all year. Can you imagine? Nothing bad will happen.
Amen.
Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen, amen. Thanks for coming. Be blessed with wealth, health, and happiness. And all the good things should happen for us, Brother Hashem.
Yeah.
Amen, amen. Chazak Baruch.
Amen.